Welcome to Finding Our Family, a series of short videos that introduce you to our ancestors in the Plampin Dunn line. These are the family of your mum, or granny, Kathy Copsey and me. The journey back in time starts with our dad, Douglas Plampin, and mum, Ethel Dunn, known as Terry to her friends. We have traced these two lines back to the early 1500s, around 500 years ago, when England was emerging from medieval times into early modern times. Some of our records go back as far as 1465, and one notable line takes us to 1275, a whopping 750 years ago. We'll be selecting the most interesting of the 922 ancestors that have been unearthed. I hope you enjoy it. But first, a bit about how Finding Our Family started. About 2 years ago, Geordie and I began watching the TV program Who Do You Think You Are?, in which celebrities discover their backstories. We were soon hooked. The stories were full of all the emotions and experiences that make human lives endlessly fascinating. The program is supported by Ancestry.com, a genealogy app that gives access to millions of records like birth and death certificates, military service, censuses, and grave sites. After a few programs, Geordie, being the confident frontrunner he is, jumped on Ancestry.com and started researching his family. He found one ancestor, then another, and ended up pulling an all-nighter, populating more and more of his family tree. More about that later. At the same time, I'd begun my counselling degree. This required a deep dive into who I am, not just the superficial stuff, but the influences, events, and experiences that had sunk deep into my subconscious and needed to be extracted like an infected tooth if I were not to damage vulnerable clients with my own mess. I was intrigued by an advance in neuroscience. Researchers had proved that certain life experiences, typically traumatic ones, change a person's genes. But even more amazing, these changes, mutations if you like, get passed on to offspring. It makes sense. This is what evolution is about. Adjustments to genes in response to environmental challenges to help our offspring survive better. But now I had my own mess to clear up, as well as the messes of hundreds of people who'd come before me, and I had no idea who most of them were. My exposure to my parents' family was limited, as we lived so far away from England where they all lived. My mum's mother, Grandma Dunn, visited us in Canada to help with the children when I think Mum was not well. Grand Dunn was a beautiful soul. My dad's mother, Grandma Plampin, visited us in Zimbabwe for my big sister Kathy's wedding. Grandma Plampin was not a beautiful soul, reminding us constantly she was the grandmother of the bride, to the annoyance of the mother of the bride. My grandmother's husbands were unknown to me. Any other ancestors were only known through disembodied names, overheard from adult conversations, the Birds, the Gleasons, the Petticans, or places, Oval Lane, St. Pancras, Sidmouth. The two places that seemed important were Devon and London. Two places that couldn't be more distinct, one deep, deep country, and the other one of the world's largest and best-known cities. So where were my ancestors from? Are my roots country or city? I currently live in Australia. It's home to Aboriginal people, one of the oldest continuously living cultures in the world, going back 65,000 years. Aboriginal people identify by their country, which is not necessarily where their current home is, but where their bloodlines began thousands of years ago. Country refers to the lands, waters, and skies to which you belong through family origins and ancestral ties, where you are connected through land, language, and law, where you have active relationships with and responsibilities to the plants, animals, and ancestors of your country, relationships that are grounded in reciprocity and balance. Imagine having a crystal clear picture of your ancestral tree going back thousands of years. Imagine the care and responsibility of the elders, successive, successively passing this information on to the next generation, who then passes it on to the next and the next over millennia, always spoken, never written down. The furthest back I've managed to go is 750 years. I mention the indigenous concept of country due to my residential history and the damage it has done to my sense of identity. I was born in the then named Rhodesia and loved the country with my whole heart. I strongly identified with the land. But my family were only in that British colony for one generation before we all packed our bags and fled when Rhodesia became a new country with a new name. I spent the next 20 plus years trying to rebuild my identity with each new country I lived in: England, South Africa, England again, New Zealand, Australia. During this time, I've had 36 different homes. I've lived in Australia for 25 years now. I love the land and being here, but I'm not sure I identify as Australian. So who am I? I have met Aboriginal people through work, and they have asked me, "What is your country?" Sorry, I have no idea, mate. Something that has always stood out in our heritage is the paternal name, Plampin. It's unusual, rare even, and impossible for people to spell. If you visit the National Gallery in London, you will see the imposing portrait of John Plampin, painted by Thomas Gainsborough. Are we related to John? He looks posh. Do we come from distinguished stock, aristocrats, the merchant classes, or from more humble traders, craftsmen, peasants, criminals, and paupers? You'll find that our story has all those people in it. Geordie and I decided to do a DNA test through Ancestry.com. Geordie's DNA came from 12 different countries spread all around the globe. In stark contrast, my DNA was predominantly from England, and from about 1500, almost all our ancestors lived their lives in South England, south of the Severn Wash Line, which is not a precise or man-made boundary, but a boundary nevertheless between the customs, dialects, culture, and prosperity of South and North England. There was another stark difference between Geordie's and my ancestors. From the mid-1600s, Geordie's kin mostly left their 12 different countries to travel to the new South Africa, a melting pot of cultures. Our kin, by contrast, weren't going anywhere, thank you very much. Our ancestors never did cross the Severn Wash Line to explore the north, nor did they ever venture east across the Channel to France, despite active trade routes and opportunities opening up. The few men that travelled were basically forced to, by being enlisted as soldiers in world wars. To my astonishment, as someone who has moved around a bit, some of our ancestors spent centuries in a single tiny rural village. But despite this, the lives of our ancestors were far from dull. They lived through some momentous times. They struggled with wars. They experienced social upheavals and technological revolutions. They enjoyed plenty and suffered through recessions, lived through plagues, and had multiple childbirths. Their triumph was to survive. And if just one of those people had succumbed and died before passing on their genes, none of us from the Plampin Dunn line would be here. I hope you enjoy meeting some of our ancestors. I've tried to bring them to life and to position them in the world of their time. I've been looking for influences and personalities and occupational interests that may have been passed on to us. All the information provided is verified by documented evidence unless made clear otherwise. Occasionally it has been necessary to use imagination and sensible guesses. For me, this exercise of researching our ancestors has built a tangible sense that there is a large tribe of people standing behind me. I find this grounding and humbling to know what work was done to give us the lives we enjoy today. I feel I can now better answer the question, what is your country, in the Aboriginal sense of the word? Bringing these people to life has made me recognize the responsibility I have as an elder now in the family, some would say old fart, to keep them alive in our hearts and minds by sharing their stories with you. I hope you enjoy this gift from me. I hope you find it interesting, fun, and maybe of personal benefit as you navigate your lives.